you have to look at the tool set that you have and what its capabilities are, but you certainly should push it to as much as you can so that you can see where the edge of the earth is. But by the way, I am a flat earther. I don't know if you just picked that up.
Stop. Again, flags. I don't want to hear any of this, Rich. Like, we're going to get hit every time. We're going to get hit.
We're good. YouTube's going to kill us, man.
Yeah. Again, murder. Like, we can't talk about it unless we turn this into a crime podcast.
We cannot talk about anything that is banned.
Just getting silenced. Oh, but
yeah, it's a fascist world out there.
Welcome to the show where air takes the floor.
Welcome to the AI Guys podcast, where we make artificial intelligence easy to understand for everyone. I'm your host, Lee Dixon, and as always, I'm joined by the man who uses AI to optimize his Starbucks orders, Rich Swire. How you doing today, man?
It's a secret. You weren't supposed to say anything.
Yeah, I feel like coffee with almond milk is not that much of an optimization, but
that's your opinion. That's your opinion.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, it's definitely optimized for you. I make the mistake of sometimes asking those baristas, like, what should I get? And then I end up with crunchy sprinkles in a coffee, which that was a huge mistake.
That's right.
So
just saying, don't trust humans, bro.
I only trust AI.
Yep.
Yeah, especially for that. So, well, we're going to get into something today. It's going to be a little bit more of a technical, but keeping it as a shorter episode, I think, to make it digestible for anyone that's listening. But kind of this upside of maybe supercharging the dev cycle. I think there's been a lot of talk about different tools that are out there. We have clients that we're helping with kind of code modernization or acceleration of different things that they're doing. But I want to kind of give some people some things to think about when it comes to using AI in a dev environment and where we've seen the hits or the misses on that. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
All right, perfect, man. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're finding out is that, obviously there's a tremendous amount of interest in AI when it comes to development and coding. And I think there's a variety of reasons that's the case. Obviously, the first one is that it actually does a darn good job of digesting and understanding how code works because it has systematic frameworks that it can go off of. There's a tremendous amount of data on the internet through GitHub or whatever other resources that exist that have can be used to train the AI. And also, I think there's a high level of interest, right? Because managing code, building code, debugging is kind of like a lot of work and very expensive. And with most of the energy and investment happening within business today, whether it be building your own software or managing your existing software, obviously there's a lot of interest there. So, but I do think that the first brush at coding is these kind of tools, right? These CLIs and cursors of the world, GitHub Copilots. You obviously have OpenAI's Codex. And I think a lot of the integration with the IDE and the initial take at coding is this kind of code completion or helping me code in a sense of like a co-pilot. And I think there's been a lot of obviously adoption there. And where we've seen some really interesting pickup has been, especially with legacy code or code management or debugging, has also been this idea of building out kind of an agentic layer to that, right? So not just integrating AI into your development environment and helping you kind of accelerate code, but also having it available and living as an agent that's been trained on your code, on your schema, on your database, and so forth, so that it can understand, maybe have a little bit more of a broader scope of what you're building. And you could also train it on your user guide and your scope documents, your blueprint. So it might have more color, right, to understand the context of what it's trying to do. And we started to see some really amazing success there. Where you can, your developers, but also your support team, your project managers, your product managers, all the way up, right? All the way to the CEO could really be able to engage this agent and perhaps brainstorm with, it's like brainstorming with somebody who understands exactly what the product does and what it could do, right?
Right.
It's also great to kind of alleviate a lot of energy off of the developer side. So for legacy products or even existing products where your tier 2, tier 3 start to get support tickets, they can ask the AI agent, because they don't have access to your development environment or your GitHub, or they're not developers, right? So they're, you know, they can ask these questions and start to find areas, and the AI can still write the code, look for debugging, find what line that issue might be. Sure. And now you're handing off to your dev team a bug with a very well documented issue, which they could even prompt or put into a Jira ticket or pass it on to their AI within their development environment. So I think what we're seeing kind of develop, at least in our world, is it's this idea of like essentially what is happening in the development cycle is it's almost like it's like, think of the prompts as like these batons that are being passed through the cycle. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's a prompt that's coming in from an ideation or a scope meeting or a stand-up meeting, or a prompt that's coming in from tier 1, tier 2 support that's being handed, that's kind of being carried through the process, right? Which started with the customer interaction, then kind of evolved into kind of a agentic, support agent to AI agent interaction that then ends up being kind of the code gen that passes on to the developer to implement. It's like kind of a snowball effect.
Sure.
And so what I think is really kind of cool about this kind of agentic approach to code management, code generation, and kind of code support is that's kind of something that's very new, and something that we start to see a really interesting, a little bit different than what you get with your classic tool sets, right?
Sure.
But still very, very powerful. And so I think when you think about the future of development, I do think that no matter what you're looking at from a job or from a business process or from a task or a role, I think people are still very much isolated as it being a tool. But I do think it makes sense to start thinking about, well, what if we created an agent, right?
Yeah.
And then you're actually starting to dip your toe in the idea that these agents could potentially
be
reciprocate and actually be collaborative and actually build and go off and do something and come back with it, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that a little bit peek its head through with vibe coding. I think vibe coding is kind of it's a hybrid, right? It's still very much like it's very much like an IDE, so like a Lovable or a Replit or something like that, where you can still kind of toggle back and forth to the code, but they are definitely leaning more toward prompt engineering, right? They're just going to say, prompt me and I'm going to change the code for you. And you see a lot of people that don't necessarily get on board quickly with that. A lot of, old school developers or hardcore guys will complain about, well, it's hard to debug, or you don't really know how it's writing it. And a lot of that honestly is probably maybe that's the case today, but what about in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a fear that maybe has some impact, but it's also just maybe a lack of understanding about how it should be used, and not just a complete, I trust it to do everything, right?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else, right? It's if AI, anytime you're talking about AI, it doesn't matter if you're talking about development or you're talking about building out conversational AI or talking about autonomous AI, there is a cliff, right? There is a point where you're pushing it too far, and the use case that you might have in your head, which it sounds wonderful, right? Everybody has that in their head, like, oh, hey, can AI cook me dinner? Or like, well, no, it could find a recipe based on the food. It could take a particular fridge.
Yeah.
Build out a recipe.
Doesn't mean too far for 12 months from now. Yeah. And too far today is like complete science fiction 12 months ago. Yeah. Right? So like those cycles are absolutely.
So you have to you have to look at the tool set that you have and what its capabilities are, but you certainly should push it to as much as you can so that you can see where the edge of the earth is. But by the way, I am a flat earther. I don't know if you just picked that up.
Stop. Again, flags. I don't want to hear any of this, Rich. Like, we're going to get hit every time. We're going to get hit.
We're good. YouTube's going to kill us, man.
Yeah. Again, murder. Like, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about turn this into a crime podcast.
We cannot talk about anything that is bad.
Just getting silenced. Oh, but
God, it's a fascist world out there.
Yeah. God, there we go.
God,
we're going to bring this. We're going to bring this back for the transcript, so that way everything gets picked up.
13 views. But yeah,
well, I want to talk on something here because I think you brought up a good topic. So in a lot of cases, AI needs to be looked at as an accelerator, not a replacement, right? So there's a lot of this boilerplate, like kind of scaffolding piece of code generation that AI can take a lot of that lift off and be done either from a business user handling it. But I think developers keeping in mind that like the goal here is for you to be able to handle the architecture and the context of what it is, because you're the domain expert around whatever you're building. Like AI doesn't know until you've provided it that guidance on what it needs to build, but it can speed up a ton of the stuff that normally eats up your time and leaves you outside of the things you actually care about as a developer.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a long time for what I would call old school developers, right? Anybody who's been doing development for maybe more than 5 years to embrace it wholeheartedly. But they will.
Yeah, we're outliers.
They're going to have to. They're going to be forced to, because the output is just not going to be anywhere near somebody who's embracing it. Right? It's no different.
Sure.
No matter how AI has that accelerator, as you mentioned, that in no matter what you're doing. Right. So if I said,
yeah,
if you and I had the same job, which was writing white papers, right, and use the analogy because it's easier for people to understand, and we both had the job of like writing a 20-page paper.
Yeah,
you know, I could get it done in less than an hour, and it would probably might take months, right, for you to write it, right? That's not it's not an intelligence thing, because but it's more just
I barely read and write, so I get it.
So, but and then somebody might look at both those white papers and they go, well, Lee's feels a little bit more human, or whatever that means, right? And then, but that just could be that I didn't prompt it to tell it to be more human. But the point is that you could always complain about and compare A, B, and coding's no different, right? You can always say, well, it's not really, I don't like the way it's coding this, or I don't like the way it's doing that. But the reality is like, you have to weigh it. There's no perfect code either. It's not like humans are writing like amazing code either. So
they're grabbing it from repos anyways and just kind of repurposing.
You can always hold the mirror. You can always hold the mirror up to them and criticize.
100%.
So I think this classic challenge that you always have with AI is everybody, for whatever reason, I don't know why this is the new the way that we measure anything, but it seems like everybody has this concept like, if AI is not perfect, it's not for me. And we run into this with all the use cases that we deal with. Like, well, I don't understand why AI slightly got that support question wrong. It's like, well, wait a minute, is it wrong? Well, not really, but it wasn't verbose enough.
It wasn't how I would have said it, or I would have written it.
Well, but then but if you look at how the current team answers questions, you're like, that's not very verbose either, right? Like, and that person sounds very frustrated and kind of short and kind of rude, right? And then you're like, so it's like you have to measure. The measuring stick needs to adjust, but I do think there's three things that I think are undeniable. Is that an AI first development project where it's built purely off of AI from the get go is accelerating at 100x than what you would do with humans, and that's just too much that's just too big of a hill to ignore. I don't care if you're the best developer in the world. There's somewhere in the back of your mind you're saying, okay, that's how, that's pretty wild. And that's today.
Yeah.
Number two, which is undeniable, is AI is a much better debugger than any human could ever possibly be. There's just no, not even close, right? Like if you have a product that has 4, 5, 6 million lines of code and there's an issue, and you've trained an AI agent on that code, and you tell the AI like, this is the bug, it'll find it in milliseconds or seconds, and a human would take forever, right? So these are the things that you have to think about. Now, the creativity side, the thing that makes the application that you're building magical, or the user experience, or the uniqueness of it, that's just about prompting. That's just about thinking through what you want to create and instructing the AI to follow your vision. I don't think AI is meant to be that part of it, although it can do some of that. I don't think you're not extracting the soul out of your application or what you're trying to build. Right. You still have to be a good engineer. Like you have to be an architect, but you're not necessarily, it's like being an architect of a house, right? You're designing it. The more you design it, the better the AI is going to build toward what your vision is. The longer your prompts are, but you're not going to have to be the one that hammers the nails in and builds the walls. Maybe at the end,
you're the GC at this point. You bring in the vendors to handle.
Yeah, so aspects. I think that, like anything, I think most of the complaints about what AI is doing today is either fits in the two buckets. One is That's just fear, uncertainty, doubt, and somebody thinking that they're better than what AI is because they are, they believe in how their methodology and maybe, to some degree, they're probably right. Maybe it's a little bit better, but it took a lot longer to build. Or number two, which is it's just not there yet, right? So, I mean, yes, okay, maybe you can complain about how AI generates this class under this kind of language because it maybe wasn't trained well, or maybe it got some things wrong and you had to go debug it. But wait 6 months, right? Yeah. So it's not an if, just when.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the pieces here that's a common thread is by training an AI on your code base, whether it's a modernization or just maintaining even a current modern stack anyways, is like you now have something that can collaborate with you. And when you are trying to determine a path forward or a new module to add or a productization around certain features and functions, do you take other dev resources off to brainstorm, or do you use that Copilot that knows everything you're doing and can kind of say, well, here's a couple areas I think we could improve. And you go, actually, that's a really good idea. So now you're back in the driver's seat doing the thing versus, like you were even saying, I know 6 million lines of code debugging is a little bit of a different process to go through. But now I can say, well, I've got 5 actionable items. Let me take this to our product team, or let me take this to the sales team or the support team and say, like, hey, do you feel like this could be beneficial? Now the use cases are being formulated not by a tech person saying, I know what I'm capable of, or a business user saying, I know what I want. You're actually looking at the code and like how it best fits into what we already have.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the development cycle is going to change dramatically. I think AI will be a heavy part of the building out functionality features, building out. And I mean, I guarantee people are using it today to build out their Jira tickets and their stories and their Epic. They're obviously going to do that. And then second is when there's issues or bugs or cases that have to be handled, I think the AI is going to take the first crack at telling you what's wrong with it. And then maybe a developer comes in and adjusts or does the fixes. But for the most part, the AI is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting there. And then on the back side of development, I think QA, finding, all those kind of components, reviewing code review, AI would be perfect for that as well. And I do think there's always a place for oversight, right? We always talk about, no matter what the use case is, development, R&D, support, sales, ops, there's going to be human in the loop. And I think the transition of being the only doer to being the human in the loop is the fundamental change that's happening in our workforce, right? And I do think it's going to take years, and maybe more than 10 years, to fully transition out of that. We are the endpoint, we are the primary driver of the work and we have the wheel of the car and basically being a passenger. And that's it sounds simple. It sounds like something that everybody would want, but it's a complicated thing to do because it really takes time and a lot of energy to prepare for it, because you don't just flip a switch. You have to train the AI. You have to get it, up and running. And there's a slow movement away from being the primary driver of these different tasks, right? These different roles. So, I mean, that's essentially what's going to have to happen over the next 5 to 10 years is whether you're coding, whether you're support, sales, whatever it might be, is that you're going to have to start to delegate and let go as the primary responsible party for these things and let the AI take over and just be the human in the loop, right? Just go, oh, how's this? Yep, that looks good. You're good to go. Or how's this? Nope, that's not good. Let me fix it. And then now let me train you so next time you don't make that mistake. And I think that is a completely different job for humans in general than it is today, right? Like today it's, hey, I got to go do it. I got to debug it. I got to make sure it works. I got to upload it. I got to look at it again. It's all us. It's all human. And we're just using tools. When you're moving to agents, you're now basically the manager of that agent, right? And I think that's not something everybody's comfortable with. But I think, and deep down, I think we want it. Otherwise AI wouldn't exist, right? There's a reason why AI exists, is because we believe that there is some next chapter to humanity where we can actually have and automate a significant amount of work and effort that not only advances us as a society, but it also takes untethers us from this screen that's 18 inches away from our face all day. and allows us to be human again.
Yeah. Well, great way to end it, man. And for everyone listening, thanks again for joining us on this episode. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to stay in touch. Also, check out our Substack for more content, which will be linked to this episode to continue this discussion. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Where air takes the flow.